Welcome to another interesting episode of the Couple Crush. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to cut a 6-piece skirt. This is a professional method that I'm going to use, and you're not going to see it anywhere else. So this method helps you to understand the body structure of your clients and how to put it into the cutting of this 6-piece skirt. And it's going to be a body con method, and this is a very simple and straightforward method, although it may be complicating for beginners, but for people who are advanced learners, you will really grasp what we are trying to do here. So I implore you to sit and watch till the end. You're going to learn something new, something interesting, and that is what I said. So just kindly hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Then hit the like icon, like this video, and share it to as many people as possible, whether they are fashion designers or not. Stay tuned until the end. So let's quickly go into the the drafting of this 6-piece skirt. So this is going to be a very simple and straightforward, as I've said it earlier. So what you need to do here, we are going to start from the back part of the skirt. So what we need to do here is to create 1.5 inch here. We have 1.5 inches here. If you were to make your zipper allowance to be 2 inches, make sure you add ½ inch. So this will serve as the zip allowance. So it is 1.5 inch. Sorry, 1.5 inches. My real zip allowance is 1 inch. So I have added ½ inch because I'm going to make the butt side to be protruding. So this is 1.5 inches here. So the pattern that we are using here, to make everything understandable, is just like drafting a pencil skirt. The only difference is that when you are drafting the pencil skirt, your skirt length will be either at your knee or a little above your knee or wherever you want. But this one do not really need the knee length, except you want your flare to start from the knee point. So for me, my flare will not start from the knee point. Instead, I'm going to start my flare from about 8 to 9 inches from the hips line. So what I have here is the waist line. This is the waist line, and this is the hips line. So the rest will be where I will start my flare from. So what we are doing here precisely is drafting out a pencil skirt. So take note of if you are joining this skirt part of it to the upper part that you have drafted earlier, you need to take notes of the darts that you created for the upper part. So these are the pattern that I made for the upper part of it, that's the top part of it. And this is the side back, center front, and center back. Since we are drafting the back part, so we'll only be needing the center back and the side back for this part that we are drafting. So you need to take note of this. This is the center back, and you have to make sure that your dart aligns. For instance, here I have my zip allowance, so I'm going to make sure that I match this zip allowance and indicate where I'm going to start sewing the dart from. Remember that this one I have opened it up, but this particular one I have not opened it up. As such, I'm going to take 1 inch from that point. That is where my dart will start from. Since I am not I'm going to sew from this point. I'm going to join the upper part to the lower part, so I have indicated that point here. So what I'm going to do is take ½ inch dart on both sides. half an inch on both sides from the waist part of it. So remember I said that it's going to be a body con. That means it will, follow the shape of the body. So it's going to be like from the upper part it is slim from the waist part of it, then coming to the butt part of it, it increases in size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take note of these points here. This is a 3 inches difference that I'm having here, so I'm going to add about 1.5 more inches. So 1.5 more inches to place the dark points here on the hip line. So that will give me 4.5. I just hope you're following me, but if you are not following me, I think as we proceed you will get the sense of what I'm going to do here. So the next thing to do is to use a curve ruler. You may likely use your hip curve ruler or any other curve that you have, but make sure that it is not too curvy. To avoid it being too curvy, I always place my ruler at 24 here while connecting it to the dart point. So for me, there is no point connecting it right away. Instead, what I'm going to do is to take these other points from here this way. Now you can see what I'm trying to do here. Now this automatically will create this shape. It will make this shape to come out. Well, if you want to put the middle line, you can still put it for reference purpose, just for people who are learning. But for those who have, maybe they are used to this, you may not need that. So after that, what you need to do is to take the waist measurement. So you may decide to take the waist measurement, or you may take the pattern that you had for the back. Remember the back pattern that you had, place it here to make sure that the back part of the pattern matches with the waist part of the skirt. You may take note of it here this way. This is the point and this is the seam allowance that I am adding there. So that automatically brings out the waist. And I'm going to add the zip allowance of 1 inch here. Then coming down to the knee point and to the hips line, I'm going to come out by 1.5. No more 1 inch. It's going to be 1.5. Then using my curve ruler, I'll take it from 24 to make sure that it's not too curvy. I don't want the curve to be sharp. That's why I'm taking it from 24. If you are using your hip curve ruler, so you can see the line that I'm creating here. So coming to this hips line, my hips is 40 inches. The hips that I'm working with is 40 inches. So 40 inches divided by 4 is it's going to be 10. Then plus 1 inch seam allowance, that will be 11, and 1 inch half inch for butt allowance that I have created here already. Of course, that one is falling into the zipper part. So what I'm going to do is to place the 11 inches here. That's 10 plus 1 inch seam allowance, 11 inches. Then what I'm going to do here is to subtract about half an inch from this 11 inches and place it on this other part to create the curve on the lower part of the skirt. That is immediately after the hips part. Then I will also bring the zip allowance at this point to be 1 inch. I hope you are following what I'm doing here. Then on the under cuff, I'll place my ruler here at about 29 or 30 to connect it, because this side is more straight, not curved as the upper part of it. So the next thing for me to do is to connect the lines. That's from the hip points here to this other side. Alright, now that I've gotten the lines, then remember that this is a 6 pieces skirt. So I have gotten the waist dart, and I've also drafted out my pencil skirt. So what you're going to do is just to slash this point open, and to do that you also have to take note of these dart points here, where you have the dart point. That is about 3 inches. Let me just bring it out. It's 3 inches here. So you are going to transfer these 3 inches and add about 1/4 inch. That will be 3 1/4 inch at the lower part of the skirt here. Or if you don't want it to be too curvy, you can use 4 inches. And I think 4 inches is okay, or 3.5. So let me just take 3.5 here. Then the next thing is to connect from this 3.5. You still have to take small darts. Remember, this side was a 1/2 inch on both sides. Then the lower part of it, if you want it to be too tight, you may also take 1/2 inch on both sides. But if you don't want it to be too tight, all you need to do is to take 1/4 of an inch on both sides. Then you may now connect it this way. Or if you want that shape to be more obvious, you can still use your curve ruler, but do not make it to be too curvy. Connect it here this way, and here this way. So by so doing, you have taken out the dart on this lower part of it also. Now let us just preview what we have done so far. This is the waistline, the hips line, and call it the underbutt line. Then we have taken a dart here, and the dart is not on there is no dart on the hips line. It ends at the hips line, or you can see that it's not really precisely on the hips line. It's about 1 inch from the hip line, to avoid the sharp points here. And we have also picked a dart, about 1/2 inch dart on the underbutt here. So after that, you can see the shape is coming out. It's flowing from this point here down to this side, from this point here down to this side. Then on the waist part, if you had trim out your waist on the top part of it, if you are making a skirt, you may likely extend this zipper part to create a butt seat allowance. You may likely extend it by 2 inches if you are making a skirt, but since this skirt, I'm going to join it on the upper part of it, so I may likely not extend that up to that. Instead, I'm going to take about 1 inch plus 1/2 an inch seam allowance, or joining allowance. So that is precisely 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark out the seam allowance on this other part, that's joining allowance of 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to connect these lines together. This is the butt seat allowance that I have created here on this skirt. So all I need to do is to remember that this was 1 inch here, and this was 3 inches here. This was 3.5 inch on both sides. Then you're going to connect it the way it is. Then you you still connect this side here. Then that is we have here the center back zip allowance. And this is the center front, center back, side back. So all you need to do is to cut one piece. I mean, it's going to be on fold, one piece times 2, and this side also will be one piece times 2. So let me quickly show you how to cut it. You're going to trim out this point here, trim it out, and then cut this other panel this way and this way. So let me just cut it now. Remember, this point is not supposed to be sharp, such you really need to cut it in such a way that it doesn't leave any sharp edge there. So this now forms the two center front, center back, and this is the side back. Sorry, let me just chop off this dart here, because the dart there is completely useless. Well, so this is what we have. This is how it flows. This is it for the back part of it. So for the front part of it, you still follow the same method. Remember, the center front we're going to cut, we're not going to cut separately. Instead, we're going to cut on fold. So you still mark out the same line, following the same procedure. The hip point that I had was 9 inches from the waistline. So that's the 9 inches that I am marking there. Then for the front part, I really do not need any darts on the front. It's actually useless to have a dart on the front. Instead, you have to allow it to be plain like that, even if you are cutting a pencil skirt. Some people do add a dart to it, and at the end of the day, to make the skirt to be bulk, as in protrudes at the front part of it. Meanwhile, there is no need to create any protrusion on the front part of it. So following the same procedure, since I am using this pattern here that I drafted earlier, so what I'm going to do, I'll grab my center front piece of it so that the dart line will match. But since there is no darts for this front, I'm just going to take the point that I have. That's about 2¼ inches. So this is 2¼ inches. I'm going to mark it there. Then coming down to this side, as we have done in the other pattern, you're going to add 1½ inches. So 2¾ plus 1½ inches. That will give us about 4¼ So this is what we have, 4¼ here. All you need to do is to create that line already. We just need that shape, that shape, that body con shape at the front. That's the essence of making it this way. But taking out any that, we are not going to do that. Then coming down here, since this was 4 1/4, I may likely take 3 1/2 here. So 3 1/2, and in that 3 1/2 there is no dart also. So taking from these 29 points, I'm going to connect it down here. Now, having done that, all you need to do is to take your waist measurement. My own is 32 inches, and 1/4 of it is 8 inches. So if you are not comfortable using that method, you can still use your front pattern and place it this way. Place it this way and mark your points. Then coming to this point, I have my 10 inches here. That's 10 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. That will give me 11 inches. Then for the joining of this part, remember in the back part also, you still need to put allowance, as if you can still put the allowance before cutting it out, or you may likely cut it along with the allowance. So I'm going to add 1 inch allowance, and I'm going to adjust the back part when I'm cutting it to add the 1 inch allowance. So from here I have 12 inches. So I'm going to mark out 11 inches on this part, because the lower part is a little bit tight. It's not the same with the upper part or with the hips part. The under butt must be tight a little to give you that nice shape. So all you need to do is to connect the lines this way. So I think that's all that we have. This is going to be the center front. We're going to cut them one piece, cut it on fold. And this is the side front. Cut 2 pieces of it, since it is all going to be cut on fold. So the next thing to do is to add 1/2 inch for joining allowance. So I think that is what we have. Now, if you are also drafting a pencil skirt, you may take the same method. The only thing is that on pencil skirt, there is no, unless you are drafting a 6 pieces pencil skirt. Aside from that, there is no need to add this line here, especially for the front part of it. So all you need to do is to just cut it the way it is. So that is what we have for the front part of it. You can see that there is no dart on the lower part of it and also on the upper part of it. But for the back, we have created darts on both the upper part and the lower part of it. It is just like maybe drafting a bustier. You know, the front part of females, we have the breast, and in that breast you need to create a cup for the breast. So that calls for the dart that we all usually have for the front part of it. And for the back part of it, because of the shape of the back that is somehow protruding at the waist part of it, That's why we normally add that for the back part of it, but for the front we do not need any that for the front skirt. Instead, we put all the darts on the back skirt, whereby when you finish joining it, you notice that these points here will come up. That means to protrude up this way, and that will serve as the space for the butt. So I hope you have enjoyed this video somehow, and I'm going to put this on the I'm going to place it on the material and cut. So I really do not know if I should continue on this video or I should just end it there and make a video on how to actually cut it on the material. So I think that's what I should do. So stay tuned for the next video. You are going to see how I'm going to cut this pattern on a material to create my 6 pieces skirt. So please stay tuned for the next video. Bye bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell after subscribing. And another thing that I really want you to do for me is to hit the like button. Thank you for staying tuned. Bye bye for now.